The movie begins in a small village somewhere in Thailand. A group of best friends, Sai, Noi, Jerd, and Ting, make their way towards the woods. They eventually stumble upon an abandoned cabin eerily standing alone within the forest. Jerd then shares a chilling tale about the place, which is rumored to contain a special chest. He reveals that the chest holds a spirit that traps anyone who enters the woods at night. As the other kids nervously glance around, Jerd suddenly bursts into laughter. He then admits that it's all a made-up story to keep children from wandering alone in the forest. Following this, the group decides to play hide-and-seek. Sai suggests to Noi that they hide in the cabin, but he refuses to go anywhere near it. She eventually convinces him to follow her inside and sends him to hide in a corner. Soon after, Sai enters a room with only a mysterious chest at its center. She carefully approaches and peers inside, only to find it empty. She breathes a sigh of relief, unaware that a bodiless head is lurking in the shadows behind her. The scene then cuts to years later, and we see Sai as a teenager. Sai volunteers at a local hospital, while Ting is married and has a sweet baby. Noi has moved to Bangkok with his family, and Jerd helps his family on their farm. One morning, Sai wakes to find her bed stained with blood, but she brushes it off without much concern. She gets ready to leave for her volunteer work at the local hospital. She runs into Jerd on her way there, and he eagerly joins her. It becomes clear that he has feelings for Sai, though she only thinks of him as a friend. At the hospital, a family brings in their wounded child, and Sai immediately tends to him. The kid's mother mentions that her neighbor's livestock was recently attacked the previous night. She explains that the culprit was a krasu, a spirit with a flying head that appears only at night to prey on animals. The woman advises them to lock their doors and windows at night for safety. Later that night, Sai locks her windows in fear of the krasu. She drifts off to sleep and dreams of the mysterious chest in the cabin, along with strange glimpses of villagers hunting down a krasu. The next morning, she wakes to find her bed stained with more blood than ever before. Her room is in disarray, and the window is mysteriously open. Sai feels an unexplained pain in her chest and is horrified to discover strange wounds on her body. These unsettling occurrences, along with the disturbing glimpses in her dreams, leave Sai feeling worried. At the hospital, she asks Jerd to join her to visit the abandoned cabin. They make their way through the woods and suddenly hear footsteps approaching. The two quickly hide and keep a lookout, only to discover that the person is none other than Noi. They eagerly approach their childhood friend, but soon notice that he is with a group of armed men. Afterward, the group gathers all the villagers and introduces themselves as krasu hunters. Their leader, Todd, proudly displays a cage filled with the severed heads of dead krasus. He then explains that krasus start by devouring small animals like chickens and gradually move on to larger cattle. If not stopped, they will eventually begin hunting humans to satisfy their hunger. The villagers listen in shock as Todd reveals that people can become infected by a krasu. Women who come into contact with the spirit's saliva will transform into krasus, while men will suffer agonizing pain until they die. Following this, Todd asks the villagers to let them stay until they hunt down the evil spirits. The village chief, who happens to be Sai's father, reluctantly allows the hunters to stay. Sai, Jerd, and Ting arrange for Noi to stay in the hospital. Sai's father asks Jerd to take her home, but she insists on being alone and walks away. The next morning, Sai wakes up and immediately throws up blood. She finds her bed stained with even more blood and her windows open again. She is shocked to see that the wounds on her body have grown larger. Later, she learns that cattle have been attacked once more, causing everyone to suspect that it's the work of a krasu. Jerd and a few other villagers join the group of hunters to protect the community. Later that night, Jerd visits Sai and asks her to shut her doors and windows for safety. He then leaves to join the hunters in their search for the evil entity. Moments later, Sai begins to feel uneasy and experiences severe pain before her head separates from her body. She transforms into a Krasu, the very spirit that has been gulping down the cattle in the village. Soon after, Ting and her husband notice that their infant son is missing. They quickly alert the villagers, who spot a flying head in the sky. Sai, now fully transformed into Krasu, flies away with the baby as the hunters start shooting at her. Fortunately, Jerd rescues the baby after Sai drops him on the ground and vanishes. Noi happens to notice the Krasu soaring through the skies. He chases after her and sees it flying into Sai's room. Concerned, Noi rushes to warn his friend and uses a ladder to reach her window. He cautiously peers inside and calls out to her, only to discover the flying head inside. To Noi's horror, the head reattaches itself to Sai's body. He flees the scene, but Sai realizes that her best friend knows her secret now. The next morning, Sai arrives at the hospital and discovers that Noi is missing. She believes he has abandoned her out of fear. Meanwhile, Noi consults a monk about Krasu in the hopes of understanding the spirit's origins. The monk then explains that these spirits were once regular humans who transformed into such entities through black magic. The women became Krasu and the men became Krahang. The monk advises Noi to follow his heart and make the right decision. As the night grows dark, Sai transforms into a Krasu while the hunters patrol the village. Noi brings her a few dead chickens so she doesn't have to go out to hunt. The following day, Sai finds Noi at the hospital and tearfully hugs him, realizing he accepts her despite her being a Krasu. Noi then continues to bring dead animals for her every night to keep her safe. As time goes by, Noi and Sai fall in love, and their bond grows stronger. Jerd, however, feels his heart shatter every time he sees them together. The villagers are surprised because they haven't seen Krasu for over a month. Jerd stays with the hunters while Noi searches for a remedy to cure Sai. The monk then informs him about a plant that can help stop a Krasu from transforming. Meanwhile, Sai continues her volunteer work at the hospital. She's tending to a little girl one day when the child accidentally sips from the drink she had left behind and instantly becomes cursed. The illness rapidly spreads, and the girl begins to transform in front of her horrified parents. The hunters learn about this and quickly arrive at their home. Todd orders his men to shoot down the Krasu, and they ruthlessly kill her. Todd then cruelly tears out the heart, smiling maniacally as the family watches their child die before them. When asked when their daughter transformed into a Krasu, they speculate it happened after returning from the hospital. Todd begins to grow suspicious of Sai, who cannot help but feel responsible for the tragic death of the little girl. Noi informs Sai about the plants that could potentially help her control her transformations. She asks him to take her into the forest and shares that she dreams about the abandoned cabin every night. They soon reach the cabin and find many glowing plants scattered on the ground. Sai nervously eats one of them and immediately senses a change in her condition. Both of them are relieved that there may be a way to break her curse. Noi and Sai share a passionate kiss, but their moment is interrupted when the hunters and Jerd suddenly arrive at the scene. Seeing Sai with Noi, Jerd loses his temper and brutally assaults Noi. Sai takes the herb and rushes towards the abandoned house, but the hunters chase after her. Inside the house, she discovers the mysterious chest and suddenly has a flashback of the night she first encountered it. It turns out that the Krasu enchanted Sai and planted the painful memories of her origin within her. Suddenly, the hunters burst in and confront Sai, who transforms into a Krasu. She manages to kill them one by one until Todd corners her and prepares to shoot. Just in time, Jerd intervenes and allows Sai to escape. Todd, now furious, turns to Jerd and violently throws him out of the cabin. Afterward, Sai returns to her body and Noi takes her back to the village. The following day, The villagers find the dead bodies of several hunters and some villagers. Todd arrives with Jerd and blames Krasue for his injuries. He then accuses Sai of being the Krasue, and the villagers decide that she must be killed. Her father tries to stop the angry villagers, but they threaten to burn the house and execute Sai. He calls her outside, and Sai presents herself to the crowd as a normal girl with the power of herbs. She then accuses Todd and his men of kidnapping her and trying to assault her in the woods. Sai asserts that Jerd saved her from them, and he confirms her story. Later, Jerd returns home to find Todd waiting in his room. Before he can react, the hunter swiftly attacks him and bites him down with his fangs. The bite transforms Jerd into a malevolent spirit called Krahong, and his condition worsens each day. It is revealed that Krasue was originally the wife of the first Krahong. She fell in love with a human and tried to run away with him. When Krahong discovered them, he killed both lovers and took Krasue's heart. His rage and thirst for revenge then passed down through generations. This explains why Todd, also a Krahong, kills his victims and takes their hearts as trophies of victory. Meanwhile, Sai manages to stop her transformation into a Krasue as she continues to eat the herb. Noi tries to cultivate more of these herbs before they run out, but the plants wither away. He then desperately searches around the cabin, only to find Todd has set fire to the area. With no other options left, Noi suggests to Sai that they flee to Bangkok in search of a cure. Sai visits Jerd at his home before leaving and discovers him in a miserable state. She tries to console him, but he confesses that he has known all along that she is a Krasue. It is revealed that Jerd had followed Sai when she insisted on walking alone and witnessed her eating a buffalo. He confesses that the reason he joined the hunters was to divert attention away from her and protect her from being hunted down. Jerd then pleads with Sai to stay with him, but she decides to leave and meets Noi. Following this, she returns home to pack her belongings when suddenly her father arrives and insists on taking her somewhere. He then forcibly brings her to a gathering at the public theater to prove that she is not a Krasue. Meanwhile, Todd manipulates Jerd, planting seeds of doubt that Sai will abandon him. Jerd tries to keep out these voices until he can no longer bear them. Consumed by rage, he finally transforms and fully becomes Krahong. Noi waits anxiously for Sai, but she doesn't show up. He realizes something is terribly wrong, and as feared, Sai begins to experience excruciating pain and slowly starts to transform. Suddenly, her head separates from her body and she transforms into a Krasue right in front of everyone's eyes. The villagers start shooting at her wildly, but she avoids every bullet. Just then, Jerd appears and grabs her head out of the air as the villagers continue their pursuit. In his rage, Jerd attacks Sai and tries to kill her, but Noi intervenes just in time to stop him. Shortly after, Todd arrives in his Krahong form and attacks Jerd for letting the Krasue escape. He then tries to kill Sai, but Jerd swiftly attacks him. This led to a fierce battle between the two Krahongs while the villagers severely wound Sai's body and left her to die. The battle between the Krahongs ends tragically, with Todd mercilessly tearing out Jerd's heart. Just as he is about to strike Sai, the monk unexpectedly arrives and shoots Todd, finally killing him. The monk then confesses that he was the husband of the previous Krasue, and Sai was cursed because of him. In an attempt to make up for the suffering he caused, he instructs Noi to take Sai to the river and sail to Bangkok. Noi hastily runs towards the river with Sai's body. Her head hovers nearby as Noi gently places her body into the boat. He consoles her and promises to find a cure so she won't suffer anymore. Despite his kind words, Sai's injuries keep her from returning to her body. They share a final kiss, and Sai tearfully cuts the anchor rope of the boat to let Noi go. Unexpectedly, a villager fires a gun and shoots Sai in the head, killing her within seconds. The movie comes to an end as Noi helplessly watches his beloved die right before his eyes.